So let's see if we can look at a few conclusions here. Lewis states that everything except the sic volo, sic jubeo has been explained away. When all that says it is good has been debunked, what says I want remains. It cannot be exploded or seen through because it never had any pretensions. So if it is true that all values are subjective, we kind of encounter a dilemma. All right, we enter into a kind of a very difficult kind of set of choices here. Maybe people still believe in an objective truth. Maybe they won't. If they do, then they're going to be living some type of a lie or deception. And so this is what many people would say today. People who hold on to the Tao or any manifestation of the Tao are really just living a lie. They're kind of believing in some type of a social construct, okay? But if they don't believe in objective truth, in other words, if you're one of those people who says, oh, like Nietzsche, you know, I see all attempts to embody the Tao in human society as a kind of a lie, then you become cynical and you debunk everything. This is kind of what happens with Nietzsche and Freud and also with postmodernity. So what happens? Ennui, apathy, and aporia set in as we endure a kind of a long slog now of concocting our own meanings for a vast, from some kind of a vast array of choices, a kind of buffet of banal options. We just take and pick things and that give us meaning and significance and value, but we realize they're all just like artificial things. It's like taking a pill to kill the pain. It wears off. You got to take another one, okay? And so we wind up with some kind of a numbing type of reality. Groups who attack the Tao usually also try to hijack one of its values and then scrap the rest. They trumpet one value as something new and then expect everyone else to jump on board. These innovators can't explain why their value is valid, and so what they resort to is simply shaming or guilting everyone else into accepting that one hyped up value, and then they exclude all the others. So the innovator proves the axiomatic essence of the moral principles, okay? In other words, that the Tao is a kind of a package deal. In modernity, many will kind of go Nietzsche, that is, they go the route of Nietzsche and reject the Tao altogether and say that morality is just a social construct, do whatever you will, okay? Increasingly, modernity is beginning to see humanity as a kind of a material nature alone. We try to chemically engineer ourselves through pharmacopoeia. We have nearly all kinds of psychotropic substances to make us feel or make us, tilt us in one direction or another. We're trying to chemically engineer ourselves. But nature, whatever it is, whatever we are, it can be controlled, it can be manipulated, and we are somewhat of a blank slate. Human nature itself must be conquered and controlled. We can engineer humans to like or dislike whatever we choose through education, through programming, through social engineering. We can teach them to value whatever they want. We can manipulate our nature and our mechanical material machine as well, our body, to be whatever we desire. And this is why some of the hopes of new technologies hold out so much allure, such as genetic engineering and other things, okay? But Lewis says at the dead end of this road, nature wins out over humanity. And we wind up with Lewis's, what he called a magician's trick. We want to understand everything via science, to see through everything. But seeing through ourselves means that we end up seeing nothing. What are some of the implications here, moving on to these conclusions of abolition of man? American society in the 21st century does try to kind of bootleg some of the principles of the Tao and then give them back to us as some type of objective moral standard that we should follow. Take, for example, the equality principle, okay? What we have today is somewhat of an exaggerated half-truth version from out of the Tao. We must tolerate anyone's values by cheering them on. But in ignoring the overarching natural law, there is no ground for an all-out pursuit of egalitarian values. So the Tao leads away from Nietzsche's egoism, really. You either go the egoistic route of Nietzsche, or you go for the Tao, or you go Nietzsche and Freud, okay? And Freud's pessimism about the individual and back to hedonistic pursuit of pleasures. But the Tao also departs from Dewey, from Peirce and James, and the pragmatic way of morality. Remember, those guys are essentially saying, well, we embrace certain values just because they work for us, okay? In other words, it's a practical utilitarian approach to values. And different societies, different times, and so forth and so on embrace different values that they think will work for them, and they call that progress, okay? So while the Tao is practical, it is not certainly utilitarian. It is not pragmatism. The pragmatist would try to democratize morality, essentially make morality and values simply a matter of, you know, the majority rule or the majority desires and so forth, much as we have done, for example, today in contemporary society. Each person's moral sentiments must be tolerated. That's kind of the way we look at this world today. Again, we're back to what the Green Book said some 85 years ago. We are all equal in every way. Well, if so, then whatever I value is equal to whatever anyone else values, okay? And we must self-create our own values. And they're just, again, back to sentiments like whatever things that we desire to eat, like our favorite flavor of ice cream. The only thing that's not tolerated is someone who doesn't go along with this scheme of tolerance, okay? The only one that's not tolerated is someone who appeals to some transcendent, if you will, permanent set of values like the Tao. Thus, someone who holds to objective values simply doesn't fit in and is rejected or ostracized and made a pariah in some way or another and is held to not be tolerant. Lewis and many others think that this will all end badly. How could it? Well, moral anarchy in a society could emerge where everyone is radically equal to such a way that it would ultimately bring about a kind of new tyranny. All right? Once you have anarchy, tyranny is right around the corner. History has shown us this over and over. Debunkers of traditional Tao values seek to hide their own values because they think are immune to debunking. So, for example, Freud debunks traditional morality as wish fulfillment, but he never entertained that his own ideas may have been wish fulfillment. Marx said religion was an opiate of the masses, but he never reflected that his own system was an opiate substitute. Nietzsche said that traditional morality was a herd morality, a kind of a safety in numbers strategy of the weak who wanted power, but he never reflected that his own thought system was a will to power as well and not true. The pragmatists pursued an empirical project of progress in democracy, but they never asked the meta question of what made their peculiar version of progress true, because it certainly was not empirical. I'll leave with one little quote here by Sergei Levitsky. It's a very telling quote, very short quote. He says, "The relativization of the absolute leads to the absolutization of the relative."